up to starter. You got the Colts this weekend. Knock them out of the park.
Think
All
Doc
right,
will get a
let's get to some basketball now.
Probably.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. Talk some Clippers. The LA Clippers parting ways with head coach Doc Rivers yesterday. Some would say it was inevitable after the way they collapsed against Denver. Many had this team winning the title. They didn't even get to the conference finals. Doc did issue a statement yesterday thanking the fans and calling it a disappointing end to this season. All right, Nick, after 7 seasons, Doc Rivers out as Clippers head coach. You surprised the team made this decision?
Surprised it took them a week or 2 weeks almost. I felt like it was either going to be immediate or it wasn't going to happen. But while everyone respects Doc and everyone likes Doc, and everyone's going to focus on the 3-1 series loss, his third, the only coach ever with more than one. Here is, I think, the biggest indictment on Doc Rivers, not just this year, but his tenure with the Clippers. And people aren't going to believe this, but I promise it's true. Frank Vogel has won as many playoff series with the Lakers as Doc Rivers won with the Clippers. Think about that. So it wasn't just 1 year of underachieving. It was a better part of a decade of underachieving. And so the question is, will the Clippers get a better coach? I don't know if they will. Ty Lue's going to be the obvious name. We can talk more about that later. But, Jenna, the real reason they did this, in my opinion, is because they were stuck. Brandon, they don't have a good secondary pitch here. I know you had said keep Kawhi, Doc, and Paul George and blow the rest of the team up. I don't know if the rest of the team has that much value. I think the only real shakeup you could do is trade Paul George, whose value is the lowest it's ever been, or fire the coach. I don't know that they had another way to shake the snow globe, Brandon. So I think they made the change here, not for the sake of change, but because they had to change something, and this was almost the only move they could do.
I mean, let's start from the top. Steve Ballmer, one of the most successful businessmen and women out there. You know, when you look at what makes a successful person in business, they understand organization, they understand structure, they understand culture. So when you look at this, it has to fall on Doc Rivers, because when your number one asset isn't your number one asset anymore, that's a problem, and it's time to move on. You know, when you think about today's NBA, it's less about X's and O's and, drawing up plays, because you can hand that off to a really good assistant. It's about leadership. This NBA, when you look at the sideline, it's gone from like 1 or 2 coaches, 3 people on the sideline. Now they have a full staff. This is you really got to understand how to galvanize your department, how to galvanize the locker room, and all the things that came out of this locker room during their time in the bubble was disturbing. I've seen this so many times. Unfortunately, I've been in, in bad organizations, on bad teams. I've been in situations where I was a part of the problem. I've been in situations where I was part of the solution. So for me, sitting back and watching this, I thought it could go either way. You blow it up by firing a coach, or you get rid of all of the players that's not buying into this coach. And again, Doc Rivers' number one asset has always been his leadership. Everyone in the NBA respects him. His players play for him, and they play hard. So when you don't have that anymore, that's an issue. So I think Ballmer made the right decision on moving on, because now what you need is a guy who's potentially sitting on your bench that can step up and deal with the superstars and deal with the egos, deal with those different temperaments. So Ty Lue could be a guy that can stand in there and say, you know what, guys, I know it's about you guys on the court, but right now my job is to lead you guys and hold you guys accountable.
I was shocked this happened. We saw the text yesterday. I was absolutely shocked. Ballmer and Doc Rivers have a great relationship, or they did have a great relationship by all reports. And the leadership that Doc has provided beyond X's and O's on the court is unparalleled in sports. And I know people keep on going back to this he's the first coach to lose 3-3-1 leads. Like, just give me a break. The first 3-1 lead was with the Magic against the Pistons that ended up going in the finals. The Magic were an 8 seed. So if you're saying, like, Doc, one of the reasons is because of that Magic series, like, no.
Okay,
the second series was like, okay, then I'll blame this. I'll blame this one on the bubble. I'll blame this one as the first year you lost 3-1, and just because the world said you guys had championship expectations in year 1 because Kawhi went up and did it with Toronto, doesn't mean that that's
Your
the
team didn't
actual
wanna
plan.
play.
So, Jenna,
they voted not to play.
I would give them two.
Yeah.
I would give them 2 years. I would give Doc 2 years, because this is what I think is going to happen now. Ballmer's like, all right, boom. Now Doc's gone. I don't think everyone's thought that this was a great idea. All right, no, now what do you got? Is it definitely going to be Ty Lue? Is it going to be Sam Cassell? Are they cool with that, Nick? Because if they're not, I don't think this is a fantastic job. Go ahead.
Wait a second. Hold on. Before we get on to who could be next, Jenna, let me address some of these things. You can't blame it on the bubble when you're up 19 in Game 5, when you're up 16 in Game 6, and when you quit in Game 7. You can't. That's insane. And if you want to throw out, you want to say, Doc, the first 3-1 lead doesn't count, then okay, he's still the only coach to blow 2 3-1 leads. The Houston one counts, and I don't think you can argue this one doesn't count. To me, I want to talk about Kawhi and Paul George here for a moment, Jenna. One is, I wonder how much Paul George's comments, it wasn't championship or bust, infuriated Steve Ballmer, because Ballmer spent millions of dollars on Clippers backpacks, getting a new arena, putting up billboards, and when he hears that, I do wonder if Ballmer's saying, well, is my coach not communicating to my players that it absolutely is championship or bust? And Jenna, my other question is, did they clear this with Kawhi? Because I don't think Kawhi asked for Doc to be fired, but one of the reasons Kawhi picked the Clippers was because of Doc. It would be shocking to me when Kawhi can walk in 1 year if Ballmer did this without Kawhi giving it his okay, which would be Kawhi walked out on Pop, and did he okay Doc's firing? That's, to me, a very interesting question that I imagine someone is Chris Haynes or Woj or someone will get to the bottom of in the coming days, Jenna. Unless,
Nick, the person who's going to replace Doc is the person who has worked closely alongside with Doc for the last year or two, and you guys brought up Ty Lue. You're going to need someone to come in and refocus this team. This is a team that clearly lost some of its, whatever you want to call it, while they were in the bubble, and they couldn't all get on the same page. Some of it is time, some of it is chemistry, and some of it is that they were not focused. Nick, what do you do now moving forward? Is the answer Ty Lue, or do you open this up?
Well, listen, I think Ty would be an outstanding hire, Wilds. I also think we're going to find out how messy this was, because I was told by someone who would know, Wilds, that if Doc feels betrayed, Ty won't take the job. That if this was a total blindside, Doc feels like he was done wrong, that Ty will be, out of loyalty to Doc, who gave Ty his start, Ty and Doc have always been close, that if that's how this went down, then Ty won't take the job. So if Ty does get the job, I think you have real reason to believe that it was somewhat amicable in their separation. I think Mike D'Antoni is a fascinating name. Chris Mannix mentioned Phil Jackson. I think there are some names out there, Wilds, that are interesting, but I think we'll find out where it lands with Ty, where it landed with Doc, by how Ty responds, Wilds.
Yeah. Look, there's 6 open jobs right now. I think this might be the worst job. It's the most high pressure. It's probably going to be the highest paid. But if I was a candidate, I'd be like, why don't I just go to the Pelicans? Why don't I go to the Rockets? Why don't I go to the Pacers and chill? Why don't I go to the Thunder, sign like a 5-year contract and really try to build something?
Win a title.
Why would I go to? You've got 1 year, and Nick, who knows when does the NBA start next year? Does anybody know? Does Adam Silver know? When are the finals next year? I don't know. Well, nobody knows. There's so much unknown. So now you got Kawhi, who needs to be load managed in a season that you literally don't know where you're playing. Are we doing another bubble? Are we here with no fans? No one knows. So you're entering into a high pressure situation that you'll get paid, but too many unknowns. I would just I'll go to New Orleans and build Lonzo and Zion.
Chris Broussard's going to join us. We'll talk much more about this coming up. You might be surprised what Lamar Jackson had to say after last night's loss to the Chiefs. We'll get back to our top story next. First things first.
If that's a bad job,